apa khabar everyone? Welcome back to episode 2. Okay, so we had,
Episode 2 of what?
yeah, episode 2 of the rest of our lives. Okay, episode 2 of Sembang Songsang. Ah, we received some nice comments and some of these issues that are raised up. We will be covering them in this episode. So, someone said, love this space where LGBT issues are discussed. Agree that there is a need for queer discourse. Yeah, we agree, and that's why we're doing this. And we hope there's more discourse as well coming. Uh, uh, Another person said, homophobia comes from European colonialists. There's a there are a lot of people in agreement with you, but there's also some interesting views on that. We can go into that later. But thanks for chiming in. And the third person said, what party to vote for the next election? Haha, cry emoji. Okay, very loaded question. That we will be talking about one particular party in a while. We're still looking for more feedback, more thoughts that we may have triggered from episode 1 or even this episode. Yeah, so please keep up the queer discourse, right? So we'd like to now introduce our new speaker guest. No, not guest.
Rotating host.
Rotating host. Yes. Dia is here. Say hi, Dia.
Hi everyone. Hello listeners. Just
Yeah.
introduce myself. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Yes. Hi. I'm Dia Rizky. My pronouns are he, him, they, them. I work with Jijaka right now. I was involved in some international LGBT movements like Ilgo World. But yeah, now I'm happy to be doing Jijaka full time now. Yeah.
All right. And of course, sorry, I forgot to introduce myself. I believe I had a very different accent in the last episode, so maybe you confused me with someone else. So this is Pang. I am going to ask Dia, according to my notes, how do we feel about episode 1 and anything you want to add? Yes.
Thanks, Pang. Yeah. There's not much I want to add so much, but I did want to say that I really did enjoy the episode. I did want to touch on like something that you folks are mentioning. I think Pang, you raised a really good point about that cycle of censorship or cycle of criminality that happens. Like queer people, we're criminalized, we act like criminals and seen as criminals, right? And I think it's nice to be here where we're refusing to act like criminals, right? We're taking up space, making space for ourselves, and like being on a podcast, like exercising our freedom of expression, sharing our thoughts with no filter or some filters. I don't know about you, but yeah. So yeah, it's nice to be part of this movement, and also to be doing it with two people that I really look up to as well in the movement. So yeah.
We look up to you too.
Maybe also introduce Tilaga.
Yeah.
Actually, so Tilaga.
Okay,
Why don't you introduce yourself?
and then we will just like cut and paste all of this and it will
Pang is
sound
very
all cohesive. It's okay, Pakitik. So my name is Tilaga and I'm with Justice for Sisters. My pronouns are they, them, she, her. Okay, Pang, so what are we going to talk about this episode?
We are going to talk about there was some current affairs, the Parti Bersama. We also have the recent raid, social media age verification, and the Terengganu caning. Okay, I'm jumping all over.
It's okay. You're doing great.
And I think we're also going to talk about pride and maybe some music, and random things lah. Yeah. So wish us luck as we try to get through all of them without going too far into the unknown. Okay, so let's start with party. We just saw a new party. It was launched on 17th of May by Rafizi and Nick Nazmi. They announced that they are leaving Parti Keadilan. Then they launched a new party called Parti Bersama Malaysia.
Yeah.
So they released a 12 points agenda which covered a number of things, including universal basic income. Well, not so universal. but some kind of basic income, which surprised me coming from neoliberals. I always love to be surprised by neoliberals. And then, but then at the same time, not surprisingly, they want to also do things like limit the number of migrant workers specifically. There are social security suggestions. Some actually pretty good suggestions, I think. But maybe Tilaga has some thoughts on this and also want to share with us. Tilaga and Dia can share with us some of this agenda and what they think of it. Yeah.
Okay, no, thanks, Bang. I mean, before before we get into that, I also just maybe want to talk about their straight man fashion lah, during their launch, right?
Wow.
Like,
Yeah.
I just love Malaysian or people in Malaysia straight man fashion, right? Their baju batik can go
Mm.
quite wild lah,
Yeah.
right? This was not level Ismail Sabri. Ismail Sabri was
Not kuih lapis,
lapis.
batik. Yeah.
not kuih lapis, not watercolor, not all over the place, but still, I think Nick Nazmi definitely found the right combo lah. It was yellow and blue. Yeah. So I mean, I just wanted to like, do you have anything to say about his
No,
baju?
no, no. I actually I've completely blocked it out of my mind, so now I need to look it up.
Yeah, I have a
Yeah.
photo in the notes, so you folks can look at the
Right.
photos. Like, I mean, I think do you want a bigger?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a pretty gay looking shirt, to be
Wait.
honest. So.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
They got colors that match their logos.
Yes, yes,
Oh,
yes.
I see. Very clever. They were style.
Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah.
They were style. I mean, clearly, look at that.
Mm.
Unlike Ismail Sabri, who decided to go against every stylist's
No.
advice. Yeah.
But I must say, I think Ismail Sabri also had a stylist, because only someone with a gay man stylist can have that level of confidence, right? To wear that sort of baju
No,
in
no,
public, right? Because only a gay man can give you that sort of confidence, right? Bitch, you wear that. Bitch, you wear
You
it
look
work.
good, girl.
Girl, yes,
You look
exactly.
good, yeah.
Girl, you look so good. Like,
no. Or
They want-
possibly it was a gay man trying to sabotage him.
yeah, that is
He
true.
was
That is
like-
true.
Yeah.
But I just want to, give a shout out to all the straight men in Malaysia lah. Like, their baju batik, they're not afraid of like colors.
Yeah.
They're not afraid of wild motives.
Yeah.
And they match with their themes. So all of this like bagus lah, benda-benda macam ni.
And they're
kan?
holding hands too in that picture.
Yeah, so it's like it's the bromance is like it's quite cute lah. And I think with like some of these younger politicians, right? Like you see that sort of bromance happening, kan? Like Khairi Jamaluddin with Shahril, Rafizi dengan Nick Nazmi. So it really does deconstruct masculinity sikit lah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and he clearly bought it ahead of time lah. So this was a very planned.
Planned.
Landlord?
Someone bought it for him.
Yeah.
Or they brought him a few versions and then he got to choose.
This one.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's get into we are done with this fashion. The fashion segment. Okay, so I think let's go into the apa nama dia ni,
Wait. Do we hate it or we love it?
the
fashion.
baju.
The fashion.
I'll
Yeah.
leave it to the
Toot
Sorry? Toot or boot, Yeah.
to the boot.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think?
I love it.
You love it? I
Yeah.
mean, you would love this. You have wild prints.
But those prints are not wild. They're actually very tasteful.
No, yeah, this is
Yeah.
very tasteful. This is not wild. I must say, Ismail Sabri was wild.
Yeah.
This is like really toned
Yeah.
down. What do you think?
I mean, I would toot Nick Nazmi, but boot Rafizi.
I was feeling the same
yeah.
way.
Really?
That was a bit too bland.
Yeah. Plus his pants don't fit well like that.
Sorry?
His pants don't fit well either.
Oh.
Good God, good God. Are we body shaming?
No, you're right. His
Sure.
pants are a bit too long for him,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
they
Too
kind of
long.
crumple around his legs a
I
bit.
can
yeah.
see
Yeah,
that. I
too
can
long.
see that.
But I
Yeah.
like the tones of blue in his batik though, so that's quite interesting and unusual, and it's done tastefully. Because Malaysian batik tones tend to be very wild, but this one is nice. Okay,
It's
okay.
it's subtle. It looks. Is this Indonesian batik or is this Malaysian batik?
Oh,
Are we
wow,
getting
wow,
into
wow.
that
Okay,
dispute?
No, let's not go there.
Let's not
start that
open
war.
it,
Don't
right?
start that war.
Okay, but I would think toot for Nick Nazmi, maybe not so major boot, but small boot.
Yeah.
For Rafizi.
Rafizi can do better.
Yeah.
I toot
Girl, step it up. Like
I toot for the entire image. For the combo. Yeah.
the combo.
Okay.
The
It
combo
works.
is a toot.
Mm,
The
yeah.
combo is a toot. We like the combo.
Okay.
Okay, we are done. Okay, so now let's get into the policy bit, right? Look at queer people talking about politics,
Yeah.
right? We get distracted by fashion dulu, and then we get into the policy. Okay. So they released this 12 points, and I think like, so I looked at the 12 points lah. This is macam dia orang punya agenda kan. And this is on their website. It's been talked about a lot. But before we go into the 12 agenda, I think the Parti Bersama ni quite significant. I think this has been talked about a lot. Like, in us talking about third wave and people feeling disillusioned and all of that. The fact that, there is this new party and this party that seems viable, kan, with like two ex-menteri, yang, have had like high positions and have had some achievements. The fact that they have formed this party, it feels like maybe more promising than other third forces that we have seen in the past, right? And also, like, we are also in a very interesting time where almost all parties ada drama dalaman dia kan, like from PN to like PKR to like I think DAP is also something's brewing there. So yeah, there's a lot going on, right? So definitely the time of the announcement is very timely, and also it then breaks this, it does provide a different model and different political configuration, right? PSM does not have to now rely on PAS to buat like coalition besar-besar kan. So I looked at the 12th agenda that they put out, and I compared this to like other manifesto from past election, from PRU 15, from general election 15. So one of the things that I did analyze and look at the apa nama dia, manifesto Pakatan and Perikatan then, but I didn't realize that, oh wow, you people like betul-betul ada quite extensive lah, the offers. Like Barisan Nasional had like over 200 offers. I'm like, gila bapa banyak kan. But I think the Bersama agenda is closest to PSM's 2015 manifesto. They have similar approach, leaner offers with leaner agenda. Like the PSM one focuses on 6 core issues, and then they expand into like different agenda, key actions. Again, all of these agendas are quite lean lah. And one of the similarities as well, I think they all cover similar issues. If you look at all of the, by and large, like broadly, they cover social protection, food security, climate crisis, making solar panels affordable and accessible. I think this was available across all manifesto, right? So in full, like I think what is offered is tak adalah like anything very new, but similar to like what other parties have like put out, right? But I definitely do think that the Bersama agenda is a bit brief. And I think the key action points are like maybe under each theme there are 2 or 3 agenda points. But what makes it easier then is that it makes it easy for people to baca and to measure and to monitor. Like if you have like 250 offers, it's difficult to monitor and measure, right? These feel very smart, right?
Yeah.
But I also, when I was looking at it, something stood out for me. I think the 12th agenda feels like a continuation of their existing work as like, ministers in whatever portfolio, right? So it's really focusing on implementation, addressing gaps, etc. And also like some of these efforts that are included in the 12 agenda, like for example around climate change or making Southeast Asia,
Malaysia
the battery or whatever, right?
of Southeast Asia, yeah.
And that the key action here is to look at the roadmap, right? The National Energy Transition Roadmap. That was something that was introduced, driven by these 2 former ministers, right? And the anti-Alibaba bill to like reduce Malaysians who illegally rent out their business license to foreign workers. That is also something that was pushed by Rafizi and others.
Actually, it's
right?
quite brilliant, yeah, to address this issue. But of course, they frame it in a very neutral language, lah. eliminating rent seeking, right? And
Yeah.
but it's very brilliant. We exactly know what they're talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and also it's because it's coming from their work, kan?
Yeah.
As ministers, this is what I've done, and
Mm.
this is what I'm going to continue to do if I get into this position again, right? So in that sense, it also makes it a good document, advocacy document. Anybody can adopt it and also measure, even if they don't win, if they perform, they become like shadow ministers, ke benda, you can still monitor some of these things, right? But maybe I want to go into like what's missing, right? So what's missing for me is definitely I mean, there's a lot on, there's some stuff around institutional reforms, which is what Bersay calls for. So here we do see them talking about like moving a lot of key decision making regulation, whatever, to parliament, right? Which is great. But I think what is missing is really the repeal of laws, the discrimination component. All this, kita nak repeal PPPA, CMA, all of that memang tak ada lah, right? Which is something that we've seen in the past, like sedition. And of course, like with all of these politicians and people, there's a lot of focus on economy, right? But when we talk about economy, what is the reason why we can't have equal opportunity or equal access to economy is because of discrimination. So I think that's something that maybe not a bit missing. And there is a mention of vulnerable communities in the housing component. But again, this whole vulnerable language is too broad, right? It can become very euphemistic. You don't know who are you talking about. Who are these vulnerable people? But really great points in terms of like, reducing the ratio of healthcare providers to patient, all of those things. What do you all think?
No, thanks for that analysis, Tilaga. I did not do that much of an analysis.
No. You weren't expected to. Like,
Yeah. Now, I guess there's a few things I did want to say. First of all, on a lighter note, they did announce this on 17th May, which is Ida Hobbit, which I thought was funny, considering what we talked about just now with the bromance stuff. So, are they allies? I don't know. 17th May, right? Anyway, sorry.
look at
is
us
there a-
reading into everything. Let's read into everything.
Right.
I mean, blue and
Yeah.
yellow are part of the rainbow.
Yes.
So yeah.
Oh my God. It was
Right.
rainbow coded.
Exactly. Yeah.
We're going to bring them down, is
Yeah, I
it?
know. Three
Sorry,
queer people.
Rafizi and Nick, that's
Yeah.
me.
But I guess I wanted to touch on your point, Tilanga, about them being this like third force, right? And maybe I have different thoughts on that, because like third force, but muka pun sama je, the same people, right? And I think that I wouldn't call them a third force because they've been in this game for quite a long time, right? We've seen this third force rhetoric be used for Muda before, right? In Syed Sadiq, I think that was one example of a third force that was like actually a third force. I'm not trying to plug him or anything. Like I'm not
No,
here
it's
giving
okay.
out free points or whatever. But I just wanted to say that when it comes to this third force, what Muda did, they branded themselves as a third force, and I think they did have some ways to change the way the public interacts with MPs. That kind of social media, using that, posting policy briefs in short form video content, right? Which I thought was a really interesting way that they did it, right? But I think when we talk about third force, what I think Muda lacked in, and like potentially what Bersama might lack in also, is also the lack of a strong, maybe ideological foundation, right? The things that you were mentioning about the law reform and stuff like that, that itself should be fueled by where they stand ideologically, right? So, is being a third force their whole shtick, right? Is that the only thing that they're bringing? Of course, you brought this other analysis as well, about the work that they already do, but like in terms of that third force, I just don't know whether that's something that is enough for them to be making waves within the political scene. But again, this is more of just a layperson view of just like what I saw. But yeah, so maybe what is their ideological framework that actually guides the policies that they're pushing, right? And without it, they could run the risk of being populist or reactionary to certain things.
Actually, yeah. What is the ideological framework?
Mhm.
I'm not like a spokesperson
Yeah,
for
no, of course.
Bersama, right? Like,
Yeah.
I just
You're
want to
not?
put
You're
it.
not?
I
You're not?
just want to
Yeah.
put it out there.
Yeah.
I'm a spokesperson for PAS. No, no, no. I'm just
Yeah.
joking. They haven't
Dream
hired
big,
me
dream
yet.
big, Ilaga.
They haven't hired me yet. Like, but
Yeah.
available. You can contact us.
Mm.
But I just want to say I'm not a spokesperson.
No, of
I would
course,
like
of
for them.
course.
I think with I think the philosophical grounding lah for them.
Mm.
Maybe I think when parties are ideological, that could also be a problem for them, right? Because I think that can also deter people from
For
like
sure.
joining, right?
Interesting.
I definitely think that for them, based on what I've read, is them bringing this multiracial party. I
Mm.
think it's the same thing as like they're, of course, because they're an urban
Yeah.
political party, right?
Yeah.
And post apa nama dia ni, macam muda and all of that, you cannot afford to be a single race party lah,
Mm.
right? They're just not gonna get it. And so I think what they are within their vision and mission ni, what they're looking at is like a long-term movement
Mm.
where they can bring these changes. There's no mention about like quota for racial
Mm.
whatever
Mhm, mhm.
etc, right?
Yeah.
So how that philosophy is translating into action, maybe the connection, there's a bit of disconnect lah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm this makes me reflect on the your point, which I think was very interesting, that perhaps the lack
Oh.
of a very clear ideological framework is by design in that sense,
Mhm.
right? To in a way they want to be kind of centrist.
Mm.
But what is interesting for me is that their agenda contain things that are actually championed by socialists as well, right? Some
Mm.
kind of basic income. But what is interesting about their proposal as well is that it is differentiated, right? They are not proposing for universal basic income for everyone. They are saying some people would deserve it more than others, right? And they'll find a way to do it. I don't know how they are going to find a way to do it, lah.
Mm.
And I can't imagine it. So good luck to them on that. And a lot of the things they're talking about is kind of trying to help the working class and the B40s and all that, which I really appreciate. But I don't. But what I am hearing is providing things for people, right? Rather than enabling people and giving them opportunities as well. But of course, there are some theories, right, that suggest that actually by providing people the basic, how you cover their basic stuff, that you are already giving them enough opportunities for them to stabilize. But of course, the other theoretical framework suggests that people need more than just provision, lah. So I'm trying to see how this translates, because right, what is very interesting is that they are trying to cover the provision part, the basic income part, the helping the poor part, the working class part, while maintaining Malaysia as economically competitive and viable within a global economy, right? Which is also how they're positioning themselves. Malaysia is the battery for Southeast Asia and things like that. So I'm trying to see like how they're leaping from one to the other. Yeah.
I must say that this is less welfareist than BN's manifesto,
Okay.
right? Like BN's manifesto is just like I'm dumping
Give.
money.
Yeah, yeah.
It's very welfare, right?
Yeah.
Whereas this one is a bit more macroeconomy. Whereas PSM, I think, looks at some micro stuff. I think why Bersama is quite different in this moment. Maybe it's because for Muda then they didn't have other options.
Yeah.
It was either Pakatan Harapan or yeah, they didn't want to like side with other like maybe PSM dengan diorang je, But I think what Bersama is like sort of providing or opening up is the space for a different kind of political coalition, right? Which is beyond this binary of like Pakatan Harapan and like Perikatan Nasional. So then there could be like a different political coalition that can be that just can destabilize things. And also like before this, the third force that folks had maybe a little bit more focused on urban actors, right? Like you had the Haris Ibrahim, who was with Saya Nabang Semni. I think I don't know what is the party called anymore. Or people like Siti Kasim, who had the political party. Again, very urban, right? Like, but then now you have these two ministers who have national sort of appeal. And I think that then
Right.
changes things a bit, right?
Mm.
And also, but of course, they're also then like looking at the same voter constituents, right? The voter pool and constituents as PKR. And I think this is like, for example, there were reports about like how about 18 to 20,000 people have registered dengan bersama, and most of these people are from PKR members, right? So I think this then changes the splinter group lah. Ni macam maybe this is a bigger version of Pas Amanah splinter, right? Like and I think it's going to be interesting to see like what this splinter will look like, right? And whether they can end up courting a different kind of audience, right? Because I also want to say that based on some of the data that I've seen, PKR's audience or Pakatan's audience are of a certain generation lah. Kan? Like
Which is?
the Reformasi generation, a bit berumur sikit lah.
Okay.
Kan? Whereas like I think the younger people may see them as establishment, and because of that may want to vote for an anti-establishment party, right? And I think this is the question that I want to ask folks. Like, would this sort of new options
Would you vote for it?
give siapa nama dia ni, queer people who are already disillusioned like more options, right? Aside from PSM, right? Now a lot of times people, when you talk about politics, voting, whatever, people always end up like, oh, there are no other parties except PSM, right? Not that we are like endorsing anybody. Like, yeah.
Okay, Tilang, I'm sold. I'll vote for them.
PSM?
Okay. No,
I'm not. No, oh my God. Why am I like selling these people?
You are like the de facto spokesperson now for Bersama, and I think actually you're doing such a great job. Every party should hire you actually.
Oh, really?
Am
I?
Yeah.
Like, pass, please call me.
Yeah.
I'll bring my LGBT agenda.
So what I feel what we are doing here is very interesting, right? I mean, we are a bunch of queer people analyzing the political parties of Malaysia, and I want to acknowledge one fact though, that is that anytime queer people show support for one party, that's used against them.
Yeah.
Right. And whatever support we give to Bersama can be used against them, right? If at all we support them lah, right?
We're not now lah.
Yeah. We're not.
I just want to be clear about that.
We are not, and we are not lah.
Yeah.
I mean, just we are in the queer space lah.
Yes.
Yeah. When it comes to our support for political parties, right? Just no. So to answer your question, I really don't know how to say this or frame this without also thinking about the fact that we are often told that we bring risk to these political parties through our support. Yeah.
I think my reflections, because like you were mentioning about how PKR, their voter base or the supporters are more from that generation. So I was just thinking about younger queer people, at least from what I see. I'm just not sure whether these are issues that young people resonate with, as young queer people resonate with, right?
That's a fair point.
I think young people are they vote based on things that affect their daily lives, like things that are things that are in line with their social view of the world, that sort of thing, right? And I don't feel like these are points that necessarily address that. And so I'm not sure whether this is a viable option for young people, especially young queer people as well.
Like what? What do you think will address young people?
I mean, like certain things that Tilaga mentioned just now, like issues relating to racial relations or social inequalities, that sort of thing. Things that are about how they interact with people around them, as opposed to larger macroeconomic things.
But also, I think it's an opportunity, right, for Bersama to think about their discourse lah, right?
Betul?
Yeah.
Because I think for better or worse, there are segments of our population, not segments, a huge part of our population that are constantly thinking in terms of identity and discrimination,
Yes.
Betul.
right?
Yes.
So this is not unique to young people. Yeah, I
Mm.
mean the fact that we have the new economic policy was to address identity and inequality.
Mm.
Yeah, so it's not a young people kind of agenda lah. But I want to say that the attention has, or rather the ideological framework for talking about identity has shifted lah, right,
Mm.
to other forms of discrimination, and more relational ones, and
Yeah.
more private ones,
Mhm.
and I think that sometimes we need to help people think broader as well, right? How the what people are facing in terms of inequality also affects other people, and how can we think of inequality in a broader way that not just benefits one group of people but everyone, right? And I see Bersama trying to do that,
Mm.
but I don't know if, as you pointed out, whether they have built that bridge
Mm.
to link the discourse between what young people think they are going through and a politics of better systems of equality for more people lah. Yeah.
No, no, thanks, Bang. I tend to agree with Dia as well, right? Like because I think for a lot of people, they think that the young people issue is climate crisis,
Mm.
right? So we see a lot of people, we see the green economy transitioning, all of that being front and center lah, in many issues kan. But I agree lah. Like I think what in my observation as well, like what people are really speaking to is the issues surrounding discrimination, right? Because if you do not address discrimination, then there's no economic opportunities. There's no like access to housing. There's no access to like apa nama dia ni, employment, education, etc. And these are the things that time and time again, even in Malaysia, we have seen young people raise with like when Pakatan Harapan came into power, right? Like that young person, that young Indian person who like asked Anwar Ibrahim, like, and talked about like, access to education, right? And talked about discrimination. And the way that this child was like talking about discrimination, I'm so sorry. I just want to raise discrimination issues, okay? Like, please don't be mad at me. I definitely do think that, when we are looking at election manifesto, I think the issues of like eliminating discrimination, be it whatever, and in an intersectional way, must be front and center lah. I
Yeah.
think if it's not there, I think it's going to like just become macroeconomy and like very neoliberal, as what you said, right? Because it's
Yeah.
not really looking at the underlying issues of why certain populations are left behind.
Yes. No, I think this is also why PAS has been successful also at targeting the youth vote in their constituencies, right? Because they were able to capitalize off of the disillusionment that the young people were feeling when it comes to their identity as young Malay Muslim people in their states, right? So they were able to talk to them directly, saying, "Oh, these are the issues that are affecting you as a Malay Muslim person, threatening the institution of Islam," and that sort of rhetoric, right? And I feel like PAS was successful in like making that issue very relatable to them, very personal to them, and that's why they won that vote. Yeah, and I feel like with these other non-ethno nationalist parties, that's something that's missing in terms of like relating and like really going down to their identities. Yeah, which goes back to the discrimination point that Tilaga was mentioning as queer people.
So I think they're trying to address that without saying it lah. Which I think could be also a weakness lah. Which you're right. Because I think they know that there'll be a cost lah if they articulate it. So they're trying to find a balancing act. So yeah, I mean, good luck to them on trying to bridge the two lah.
Good luck. Good luck.
Yeah, again, for me, it's this lah. If you don't deal with the underlying issues, what are the factors, like the social determinant factors, right? Then it's susah lah, because then it still will stay within this whole neoliberal. We just provide opportunities to everybody, and then it's up to you to like
Pull yourself up.
pull yourself up, right? It's not substantive equality. So I think that's the feminist analysis and queer analysis that we want to bring.
Nice. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Sorry. Yeah, we have gone quite a long time. I think hopefully the Bersama change their entire policy based on this conversation.
And hire us.
Yeah. And then win the next election. Yeah.
You get two in one, right? Some political analysis and style advice.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So we were talking about rates and increasing rates on queer spaces and queer events in the last episode. And what do you know? Surprise, surprise, there's another raid. On 24th May, there was a raid which saw the arrests of 51 people. There was also a tragic death. Cause of death has not been disclosed, but I know there's been speculations, and it's unclear whether the arrests were triggered by the death or otherwise. The reality is the Dangerous Drug Act has always been used in the raids of LGBT venues, arrests, and such. We are seeing how police will go in claiming that this is to check, about drugs,
Yep.
and use that as their reasons for raiding. But then they also bring along the Jabatan Agama and all that, right? So this is of course not unlike the war on drugs in the USA, which has been motivated by their attempt to clamp down on black spaces and black activism, civil rights activism in the USA. So it makes me think about this parallel as well. How drugs has become an easy way to get into counterculture spaces. The reality, of course, is that the laws like 377A and B and the Liwa Musaka carry a higher burden of proof because people need to be caught having sex, right? Whereas for the Drugs Act, they don't even need to have anyone test positive, but it's a good enough reason for them to go in and get everybody tested. Yeah. The chilling effect of this law is great. The existence of these laws, along with other bad punitive discriminatory laws, increase LGBT people's vulnerability to arrest and detention. So let's get into it and unpack how DDA has been used against LGBT people, what the impacts and such. Yeah. Dia, I understand that, Jejaka was also quite interested in this case,
Mm.
and maybe you're also monitoring it. Yeah. What do you feel about this arrest and what are our concerns?
Yeah. Thanks, Pang. So, I mean, the reason why we're invested in this case and like these sorts of arrests is, first of all, these are our communities. These are the people that we do the work for, right? Jejaka, we do a lot of like harm reduction programs. That's sort of what we try to do in the context of the criminalized setting in Malaysia, right? But I guess just from a personal standpoint, my first reaction to this was, of course, it's disheartening to see not only the nature of the arrest, but also the reaction to it from media, from the public, right? Because regardless of what folks out there feel about substance use and that sort of thing, our stance should be that criminalization should not be the way forward. More so active criminalization and these raids that are highly stigmatizing, especially the way it was talked about in the media, kan? Because it paints, and this was mentioned in the previous episode, it paints substance users as really horrible criminals, right? When I think there's a distinction to be made between drug use for recreation and those who maybe suffer from like substance use disorder or addiction, right? And the approach to that is different, kan?
Yeah.
For recreational use, there's we have to think about safer space, safer use, regulating that.
Harm reduction.
Yeah, harm reduction, right? Which is what we try to do. When it comes to like addiction or substance use disorder, that's something that requires a more medical approach, kan? But in either way, evidence shows that criminalization is not the way forward, lah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, it has been often stated, right, in research and also by social workers, right, that criminalization of drugs is a contributing factor to the delay in seeking for help when an emergency happens.
Yeah.
Right? Lives has been lost this way, right? Because people, when somebody overdoses or somebody falls sick during a binge or an event, the tendency is to think first, oh my God, will I get into trouble if I go to the hospital?
Yeah.
Right?
Mm.
So they'll wait until the person maybe recovers, hopefully. Yeah. And sometimes these people need to be rushed to the hospital instantly. And I think a lot of people don't know this about Malaysian hospitals. If a overdose person presents themselves at a hospital, the doctors are obligated to deal with that first, to help them recover, to heal them. The doctor's obligation is not to report to the police. Yeah, because let's say if this was an overdose, lah, right? Which we don't know. Yeah. And depending on the chemical substance, right, the doctors could either have an antidote for it, or just sometimes it's as simple as keeping the person breathing and having oxygen
Yep.
going into the system,
Yeah.
because some of
Yeah.
these drugs suppress the breathing capacity of the lungs. So it's just putting a ventilator in, making sure this person breathes, and because some of these drugs get metabolized within hours, right? You'll come out of the system eventually. Doctors know how to do that. Get yourself to a doctor. Okay, yeah, this is what I want to say. But anyway, my point stands though that criminalization often makes people delay and lose the precious time that they could have taken to save that person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think not just in the context of overdose and things like that, even with recreational drug use, we see also that when people engage in substance use and when it's criminalized, they worry about what effect that might have on when they go to the doctor themselves, right? So in other words, it worsens other health crises as well. So not just in overdose, but like when it comes to other health seeking behavior, when it comes to sexual health services, right? It affects whether people want to go get tested because I did it. I had sex while I was on drugs, right? And they're afraid to kind of divulge the information because it's criminalized, right? They don't know whether or not they can say that to their healthcare provider.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of impacts when it comes to health, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, I think this double criminalization is it's an issue, right? Like you have the criminalization of sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, and then on the other hand, then we also have the criminalization of like substance use, possession, having paraphernalia, all of those different things, right? I think maybe for me, maybe I just want to backtrack a bit, like, you know, the reality is where I started documentation and research like maybe 2006 2007ish, and around that time I think there were more documentation of like rates of venues and events, right? And also at some point it transitioned from like drugs and vice to like sex party, the grounds of these rates, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things that we see now, and also just observing the trends, right? Back then, it was like just urine test. That was the arbitrary thing to do, right? And now we see both urine tests and phones being checked.
Yeah.
Like so, the arbitrariness has increased, right? The way in which that LGBT identities, substance use, nightlife is all lumped into apa nama dia ni, vice, right? Then this and sex work as well lumped into vice. I think that then becomes problematic, right? And especially for people like us who engage in transactional sex, engage in like sex work, like people who like disproportionately maybe use substance, right? Then this sort of vulnerability then becomes amplified, right? Because then we are it's so much easier to be profiled, it's so much easier to shut down different spaces, etc. Over the years from like 2010s around there, the arrests of like against venues reduced, right? But arrests continued, but it was more focused on trans women actually. But at the same time, I also want to say that the reason why from 2010 onwards macam tak ada sangat banyak arrests of these parties, etc., is because of the chilling effect of these rates. Because banyak sangat rates of like clubs, events, benda-benda macam tu. So then I think people stop organizing. A lot of LGBT organizing happening at that time. When it gains a certain level of visibility, memang kena cantas, right? If you look at Sexuality Merdeka, kena chantas, right? After like certain level of visibility. So the organizing was also difficult, and there was this chilling effect, right? And also to jajaka, right? Some level of visibility kena chantas, right? So and also I think there was also a lot of self-censorship, because I was doing some interviews and research at that time, and I was interviewing folks from PT Foundation. At that time, I think we also changed the language from LGBT venues or gay venues to venues frequented by LGBT people. Right? Or like because there was because these venues were also spaces for HIV groups to like board outreach, right? And they were conduit for like public awareness efforts, etc. So the venues then also started distancing themselves from like these sort of things, right? Because drugs and LGBT ni two combination kan like much, and then there's also media sensationalism, etc. So I think this also then really reduced a lot of organizing and also shrunk like a lot of spaces for people, right?
But here's the very interesting thing. I think I want to point out that Tilaga, I think you're mentioning shrinking of spaces for community organizing, for activists and things like that, right? But from my observation,
For
right,
everybody lah.
I think what I see happening as well is that people are driven further underground,
Yes,
right?
yes, yeah.
So these smaller parties and private parties proliferate and are happening. Okay, partly because all the more public spaces or
Betul.
even semi-public, not even fully public, right? Like our community organizing and things like that, become scarier spaces,
Betul.
right?
Agreed.
So yeah, but the people who don't feel so safe in these kind of spaces, they will go to maybe more private spaces, or they'll
Agreed.
create private spaces in their homes or hotel rooms and things like that. And some of these spaces are also not entirely just about sex, right? There are people in the in between
Yeah.
space who may not just want to go to an orgy, and
Betul.
they want to go and test out the crowd first. So these are spaces where they just go and dance and listen to
shush dia.
music and things like that. And but also the fact is, I want to say the fact is, gay people are horny as fuck. Yeah, so they can be stupidly brave. Yeah, okay.
Not us getting so real.
They these raids are going on, right? Okay. You know there are people who chatted with me right after the auto raid, right?
Yeah.
Within 1 week they're asking me, Pang, is it safe to go back to the sauna? I'm like, what? This is your concern right now? Okay. But yeah. But so of course, while I say they're horny as fuck, they're also human beings looking for intimacy.
Exactly.
Yeah. They
No
are denied.
judgment.
They are denied all these normal safe spaces for finding intimacy. They have to find it somewhere, and they take those risks to find it. When we used to be cruising, in the 80s and 90s, before the apps, right? All the cruising sites eventually were filled with people mugging people. Okay, there were criminals coming there
Hate
mugging.
crimes.
The queer people. It did not stop them from going to these cruising parks. Yeah, they were like, maybe the muggers, could trade off with me, right? So I tell you, queer people will take any risk
Yeah.
for sex. And the other thing is that society also does not provide a future for queer people. There's no pathways to aging for queer people or people who are outside of the heteronormative family structures, right? If you're not a parent, what's the point of you, right? So without stable futurity, right? Queer people then also focus on present moment and immediate needs and pleasures, right? Like it, they have to put their money somewhere, right? So then they put it into finding pleasures and aesthetic labor, right? Making themselves beautiful, making themselves look good, gaining social capital, erotic capital. So queer people can focus on creating those kind of bubbles, wherein they sometimes feel safe. But what I want to actually bring this to, right, is also to tell queer people, right, that the safety that they're building within these spaces is also illusory. You know, as I found out while doing a lot of risk management training for queer people, that queer people have a tendency when they do risk management, to focus on eliminating the risk of something happening, right? So they avoid things, doing this in order to avoid it happening. They are trying to mitigate or reduce the likelihood or the probability of something happening, but they don't focus on reducing the impact of the event when it happens. In other words, for example, they will prepare, they are worried about getting outed, they'll find all the ways to avoid being outed to their family, but they don't plan for what happens when they get outed anyway, right? Because that could reduce the impact. So I think one of the ways that queer people sometimes avoid doing this, avoid the likelihood or the probability, is to avoid having any contact with activism or LGBT rights, because they think that increases their visibility and their risk. But actually, what we are trying to do is to get people to also prepare for all possibilities. Be prepared. We are living in a country that is out to take our spaces. So the only way we can prepare is in community, together, each other. I mean, of course, maybe I'm saying this because I never get invited to any of these sex parties, right? Or any of these home parties, not just sex parties. So maybe I'm feeling a bit like left out. But
It's okay, Bang. We'll
no.
organize one for you.
Yeah, please.
If you're listening, please invite Pang. If you're listening and organizing one of these
If
parties.
you're the police and listening. Okay.
I think our queer community need to come together to have these conversations. Is what I'm trying to say. Not to put the blame also on the queer community, but just to gently put this message out there. I know why we need this space. I know why you're there. I know what you're seeking and why we need it. But if this is what we need, let's focus on how to protect it.
Yeah. The other thing that is important is to understand, right, what are these laws and how these
Yeah.
laws are problematic, right?
Yeah.
Because I think especially when we talk about, because we are dealing with two sense of censorship, right? One is censorship around LGBT issues, and the other one is censorship around drug related or substance related issues, right? By just talking about it, it sounds like we are endorsing it, or it creates that suspicion, oh, you must do it, right? That's why you're talking about it, and and so I think that then takes away the whole freedom of expression. It really apa nama dia ni, creates barriers for people to organize and push for legal reforms and policy reforms around this area, right?
Precisely.
And also then in this sort of situation, then we sort of end up limiting our discourse to a very medical approach, right? Because this is sometimes the only approaches that we can take, right? And I think that's why we want to have this conversation, right? To really debunk that idea that we cannot talk about it, right? It's risky to talk about these things, but we should be able to just okay, let's have a conversation about the laws, the policies, the impact, and how we can come together around this, right?
Agree.
I think the issue really is, the fact that the Dangerous Drugs Act in Malaysia, which really looks at regulation of substance use, there are many inconsistencies with international human rights law when it comes to substance, right? And also the other problem is the urine test, right? Again, the urine test, if we were to bring our queer perspective, especially for trans people, it's extremely degrading, humiliating, in addition to the violation of dignity, bodily autonomy, privacy, etc., right? This is a regression on two ends, right? One on LGBT related issues, and the other one is on the decriminalization of substance, right? Because we are now going back to the war on drugs approach, when we've already the Ministry of Health, the police, and all of that have already said, oh, we want to shift from the criminalization approach to public health approach, kan? So the fact that we are seeing the crackdown of the language that's used, menumpaskan aktiviti tak bermoral and dada benda-benda, it goes back to that old outdated approach, right? And we know experts around the world agree war on drugs was a complete failure, right? There was no benefit out of this, nothing, right?
It was actually essentially a war on poor people, a war on marginalized people.
Yeah, so I think and I think this is why we are raising this concern, right? Because a lot of people at this rate are just using it for personal use, right? And these may not be traffickers, right? But again, of course, you have to and investigate this, whatever. But also, international human rights law, it provides guidance, right? In terms of like, how do you distinguish things for personal use and also for supply, right?
Yeah, Malaysia has the most arbitrary law when it comes to that, right? Like 50 grams of MDMA automatically means you're presumed trafficking,
Yeah.
right? We have a presumed trafficking law that doesn't need to prove that you are a trafficker. Just by it says that you're a trafficker by the amount that you carry on you.
Yeah, so I think this is the stuff that the drug experts like Professor Adiba and others, it blurs the line between trafficking, supply, use for recreational purposes, carrying small possession, etc. Right?
Okay, so there's a comment from a user. Sorry, not user. Social media user.
Right.
Sorry. Excuse me.
Social media, a different kind of drug.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So this person said, maybe instead of these no effect statements, you should address the issue of why our community gets involved with harmful substances for recreation. And somebody else responded, I think the issue is they don't use the same energy with drug parties involving straights. When it's the straights, the drug is the news. When it's the gays, the sexuality is the news. And then the last response was, of course they don't. They dehumanize queer people. Why on earth would they change their language just because some liberal NGO issued a statement on Instagram? Damn. My underlying point is that this is useless work and doesn't further the cause for the community. Hope this helps. Smiley face.
It definitely helped.
Yeah. I guess just a very quick reaction. What I'm sensing from this person is there's frustration, right? There's frustration from their part on maybe like towards the community, right? Maybe they don't understand, or they're frustrated with how the community engages with substance use, right? And I think I can understand that, right? I can understand how people within the community, not all of us are on the same page all the time,
Yeah.
right? Not all of us on the same page all the time. We can agree and disagree on certain things, right? But I think what's important for us to really remember here is the fact that we cannot blame each other, right? We cannot put the blame on individuals, right? When the problem is much larger, much more systemic, right? Especially when it comes to this particular raid, right? Because as Tilaga mentioned, there's arbitrary use of force by the police, arbitrary use of the laws, by the police and things like that, right? And I think there's a lot of nuance also to unpack when it comes to why the community doesn't get involved with with substance, right? The issues relating to the criminalization of their identities, which drives them underground, which takes away the space for them to truly be their authentic selves. And so this whole concept of minority distress resorting to substances as a coping mechanism, right? So there's a lot of things to unpack there. So yeah, I think, again, I understand the frustration, but I think the focus should be shifted not on the individual responsibility, but rather this larger systemic thing that we need to address in terms of law, rule of law, that sort of thing.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah.
No, I just want to say that, I just want to appreciate this person for reading our statement and taking the time to comment. So I just want to appreciate that, because a lot of times people just say, your statements are too long. Nobody's going to read this statement.
Yeah.
This really debunked several assumptions by people. So no, firstly, thanks so much. And also for engaging multiple times. And this sort of conversation is important, right?
Yeah.
Nothing makes NGO people more happy than to see engagement on social media. We are doing our work.
Somebody like my comments, somebody like my posts. Yeah, a repost. Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So I think this is really great. And I think this sort of conversation is where we want to unpack some of these things. So if folks have suggestions of what we should talk about and how things can be more useful for the community, please do share with us. We are happy to develop some of these resources. And for folks who are looking for support, legal support, mental health support, or any kind of health support that is LGBTIQ affirming, you can check out Access Bersama and also contact Jejaka.
Yeah.
Your care line. What is your email? I was looking at it this morning. Tak ingat dah.
Hello. Just hello at Jejaka.
Oh, okay.
Hello.
Hello. I think Google in their AI thing letak care something. So maybe we should contact Google lepas ni. So hello at Jejaka, yeah?
.org.
.org. Justice for Sisters macam susah lambat reply sikit. So y'all can contact Jejaka dulu.
All right. Thank you. I think we should wrap this section up.
Oh, welcome back. Yeah. There, we done it.
So now we will continue with our we will continue with our current affairs discussion with a few more topics. So on the same subject of arrest and detention, I think we will switch now from federal laws to like state laws. And we will look at like some state Sharia laws now. So recently on 13th and 17th of May, the Terengganu Sharia Court sentenced two couples to caning. As you folks know, Terengganu has a track record of caning people or rather subjecting people to caning in private and public settings. And there's been, aside from that, there's been like very interesting developments at the state level related to caning, right? None of these developments are positive towards abolishment of the punishment as required by the Convention Against Torture and in line with some of our constitutional provision that safeguards our rights. So in some of these developments, including 2024, 9 mosques were gazetted in Terengganu nationwide as official places where caning sentences can take place. So this was to allow public caning to take place officially. And also, they also then talked about, gazetting more places like parks, market areas and all of that. And then prior to that in 2002, we also saw several amendments to the Terengganu state Sharia offences enactment, which saw increased punishment to 14 provisions. Of those, 9 of them imposed maximum punishment, right? Which is 5,000 ringgit in fine, 3 years imprisonment, and 6 lashes. And also, it introduced use of subsequent offenses. Caning was introduced for like subsequent offenses, for subsequent arrests, right? And out of all of these 14 laws, there were also LGBT related laws. So now post amendments, in Terengganu, a trans woman who's arrested for posing as a woman can then be, if it's the second arrest, then can be subjected to caning, right? So what we have seen is that the increase of the scale of punishment in Terengganu, which is really not consistent with human rights law, right? So you can check out some of these things on our trackers. In total, in Terengganu, there are 22 state laws that impose caning, and most of these offences most of the caning centers are imposed against like sex-related offences, faith, pregnancy out of wedlock, and things like that, right? Things that shouldn't be criminalized in the first place, right? So these two couples, going back to these two people, they are, set to be caned in the Marang prison on 7th of June. So they're not doing this public caning, instead they're doing it in prison. So I just want to maybe ask folks a bit, like, how do we feel about another caning in the state of Terengganu? And I know this is against straight people, but like, how do queer people feel about this situation happening to them?
As allies to the straight community. I mean, it's
queer ally.
Yeah, queer ally to the straight community. I mean, it's upsetting, obviously, to see corporal punishment in 2026 as a official policy of the state government, right? In 2026 for a sex-related or morality-related offense, no less, right? So what worries me about this is particularly how this will undoubtedly, in my opinion, will be used to justify these sorts of things against LGBTQ people on a larger scale, okay? Because most of the time, we argue that these laws are disproportionately used against us, okay? So when it what I foresee is that our detractors can be like, I think we're doing it for straight people juga. We hate all kinds of zina, so it's justified to do it to you also at a larger scale because your zina is worse. Because that is how they see us, right? To them, there's a hierarchy of decency. There's a hierarchy of zina, morality, exactly, right? So if straight people boleh kena, there's nothing going to be stopping them from doing it to us.
But the response can also be that so therefore, actually, when queer people fight out for freedom, we are not just fighting for queer people's freedom. Our freedom is actually to be enjoyed by straight people as well, Yeah.
Agree.
in fact, I think there are more straight people out there than there are queer people. So it stands that there will be more straight people who will get to enjoy the freedoms that we fight for.
That's
Agreed.
the moral of the story again. Like, go ahead, yeah.
Yeah. No, but like I said, because the thing is, there is that hierarchy of what they view as worse forms of zina, kan? So even though,
Right.
yeah, we can argue that, but like to them, they don't want to be associated with that. They're gonna look at us and be like, no, that's different. Yours is different than ours. You know. So. No.
Yeah, and that's this sense of normalization of violence, right? That takes place across the board. That also then becomes an issue, right? And yeah, go ahead.
Wasn't there recently another person who died during a Kawat raid? And this time a police officer or
Yeah, there was something
something
about
like that,
I don't know
right?
if he died.
But I mean,
But yeah,
whether
still.
it was police officer or not, I'm not quite sure the detail now. But the fact is that we have seen in police reports how Kawat raids lead to people jumping out a window and falling to the death. I think that's crazy, lah. That's
Yeah.
crazy that something like this should cause a person to die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and also like the fact that, and I think this is the running theme, right? Like the fact that consensual sex across the board is criminalized in Malaysia. Whether it is, straight people, gay people, lesbians, trans people, doesn't matter, right? It's across the board. If you're not married, then you're not having sex. Kan? So I think the fact that consensual sex continues to be criminalized is a problem.
Yeah.
And the fact that then there's all this excessive punishment like caning in public and shaming people like that. Sorry, on the Terengganu point, of course, like I suppose what we want to call for as Justice for Sisters and other civil society groups is for the government to review, the state government to review their actions, and also to again be a little bit more, a lot more aligned with international human rights law. I think even in 2024, when like the public caning happened, Suhakam had already made a strong statement saying that this is against rule of law, dignity, and how Malaysia should ratify the Convention Against Torture. Right, it's one of the minority Muslim majority countries that have not ratified the Convention Against Torture, right?
And seriously, like, just stop caning people. Stop treating people like children.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
your citizens are not kids. Okay, they have their own agency. They're adults. They
Autonomy.
can make their own choices.
Yeah.
Stop treating people like children.
Yeah, and it's just sex, right? Okay, so let's move on. But you don't need for this one orgasm, ni. Risiko dia besar, like okay. Tak puas your orgasm.
Don't limit people to just one orgasm. I mean,
Multiple orgasm. No, you're right. You are right. You are right, Pankitik. Okay. So with that, let's move to the next topic on like social media age verification. So I think this was something that we are seeing. It's going to happen soon. So this was, in November 2025, the government announced its plan to ban social media for people under 16. And I think the main reason was because, they felt like they need to protect youth against online online harm such as cyberbullying, financial scams, CSAMs, child sexual abuse materials, and things like that. So then I think later they introduced ONSA, which is the Online Safety Act. It came into force in January 2026. So ONSA is quite interesting because it regulates the tech companies, right, who are called as licensed service providers. And it sort of defines harmful content into two categories, harmful content and priority harmful content. Priority harmful content is the child sexual abuse material, CSAM, fraud, etc. Whereas the harmful content then is like, associated with harassment, terrorism, violence, indecent content. Again, when we were in these consultations, we were also like really questioning what does indecent mean, right? It's also very broad. So I think these are the things that the law actually defines. What is harmful content, priority harmful content. And based on this identification of content, then tech companies are supposed to take measures to reduce the harm and also respond to the harm based on these specific things, right? ONSA requires tech companies to manage online harms, prepare, publish online safety plan, develop and maintain mechanisms, right? And to respond and identify all these things. So the lack of compliance can actually like result in fines up to 10 million. quite hefty. Tapi I think tech companies boleh afford good. And it also establishes a online safety tribunal, right? So on top of that, dah ada all of these mechanisms, risk assessment, blah blah blah. On top of that, nak juga ban. So ban the 16-year-old kids from under 16 under 16 um they can no longer have access to social media effective June 1st, right? But I think this is the slippery slope. This is the correct use of slippery slope, right? I think when they do this for kids below 16, what happens is that both adults and kids have to verify their age through providing official documents and such. How do you folks feel about this ban?
I
Mhm.
I think the important thing is that we teach young people digital literacy,
Yeah.
right? What the internet is about, how it works, what are some of the dangers, and what are some of the joys, the community you
Yeah.
can form, and how do you keep your community safe,
Yeah.
right? Because young people need community.
Yeah.
I mean, my partner did this great dissertation, right, on how queer people in the early age of the internet, without it being, I mean, queer people in Malaysia have found ways to learn about ourselves, even though we grew up in a system that was very oppressive to us, right, and denied us opportunities in schools and things like that. And the internet was such a space that queer people went to find themselves, lah, right? And also porn. So,
Yeah, it was important,
yeah. But I think that uh, learning, eventually learning how the internet works, how to create community and all that was very important for queer people. This is the space where they could learn to be who they are, with outside of what is being taught to them.
Yeah.
But you know what is amazing? I have great faith in queer people finding the resources they need to protect themselves and to organize and to find each other, regardless of what laws or the state throws at us. I mean, we've done it historically. We'll do it again, lah. I mean,
The
this what
the kids will be all right, right?
the kids will be all right.
Yeah. No, that's a great point, Pang, because I also think not just young queer people, but like young people in general, right? I think with this social media ban, this blanket ban, we're not. I don't think the government is giving enough credit to the younger generation who actually have the capacity to understand risk, to
Yeah.
understand
Yeah.
how to navigate these spaces, kan? So yeah, I think our approach should be like how we approach substance use, right? It's about harm reduction, kan? It's about harm reduction, and also shifting the blame to consumers. I don't know, like what's that about, right?
Yep,
We have
yep,
the answer,
yep.
right? We're already
Talk about it.
we're already putting some of the burden on social media companies, right? And as it should be, right? They're the ones who have the regulators, they have the content moderators, and they have a shit ton of money as well, right? So whether or it's I believe it's definitely possible for them to have some sort of regulation about what content is out there, can that protects young people from the harms that exist online. Because when we have these bans, similar to how it works with criminalizing substances, right? With social media bans, we potentially will also see young people and young LGBT people moving to unsafe online
That's right.
spaces, kan? The dark web, all these sorts of very shady websites, that sort of thing, to kind of bypass this ban.
Yeah.
So that's a genuine concern that I have.
Yeah, I think in the Article 19 statement, and also this was, I think, Walter Turk, am I saying his name correctly? Okay. The UN chief, I suppose, also made this statement, right? Also made the same point, like, it will create a dangerous cliff edge effect, right? Where people are then pushed into unsafe spaces and all of that. And I think this is the old school pushing people underground sort of
Yeah.
argument, right? Where it used to be in offline spaces, but now we are looking at it in this vast internet space, right? Definitely, I think in sort of looking at the analysis is on like two levels, kan, with the child rights and then also with adults, kan, like when we are looking at the the children's punya perspective, there is no apa nama dia ni, the principle of the best interest of
The child.
children, right, of the child. And then also it doesn't really take into consideration the evolving capacity of children to understand different things, and also to cater to to their different needs, right? And I've been in consultation with young people who've said that, like by taking kids out of social media, of course they acknowledge all the negative impact and all of that. It really then takes away skills and like apa nama dia ni, removes young people from society, excludes them from society, right? So there are many things. I also just want to like maybe bring in one point, and I think all these verification things, it for queer people, especially for trans people, this really then brings up another stressor, right? Because now you have to now produce your official documents to register the cat social media, right? Again, we already know like how legal documents are used for every single thing in Malaysia, right? And that then outs trans people who do not have trans, intersex, non-binary people who don't have legal gender recognition. So again, in this with this age verification, there are additional implications, right, in terms of like, again, additional outing, and also the safety aspect for LGBT groups, not like Jajaka Justice for Sisters, right, but the smaller groups who then have to do all this verification to like make sure that their consent is all of that, right?
Yeah, lah. I mean, this is exactly like when they say they are arresting somebody for their safety, lah. I mean, but and you know who's still able to meet on social media and participate and all that? The extremists, the
Yeah.
pedophiles, the manosphere. They get to be on social media and talk all their shit and nonsense, and then the young people who actually need it now don't get to use that space.
Yeah.
They never get to hear this podcast. Like, no, and I think this is the thing that I just want to maybe like bring back to apa nama dia ni, what Article 19 is calling for, right? So they are really calling for the government to pause and withdraw the blanket ban. So I think we also want to maybe like encourage everybody who's listening and other civil society folks to look at Article 19 CIJ and SINA project statements, and also maybe like support this call for the government to pause and withdraw and review the social media ban, right? Because of the adverse implications on access to information, connections, and services. Okay?
All right, okay. We are talking about Pride. This is Pride Month. Yes, we've taken the long road in this podcast to Pride, which is how Pride feels like for many of us. I think just to say that, as we know, June is typically seen as the Pride Month around the world. And there's historical basis for this. Many of you probably already know this. The first Pride was held in June in 1970 as the first year anniversary of the Stonewall riots the year before, in 1969. Yeah. So the first Pride was actually called the Christopher Street Liberation Day. And then a week or two later, it appeared in other major cities of USA. 2 years later, London had their Pride. And then, other cities in the UK, as well as eventually, other cities in Europe. Fast forward a few decades, in 1994, there was one in Quezon City, organized by the queer communities there, together with the Metropolitan Community Church, which was quite significant. And then we started seeing more prides around the region. Famous ones are the Bangkok Pride and the Taipei Pride. Yeah. Queer people, including those in Malaysia, save up a lot of money to attend these prides in those cities.
Chuti and queer and pink dollar.
Yeah, to bring their pink dollars there. So So then, of course, queer has no, Pride has become a kind of corporate space where corporations come in and sponsor, booth,
Boo.
floats and things like that, and it became very commercial, lah.
Yeah.
And of course, these corporations came in at a time when it's no longer a risk to do so, no longer a financial risk. They because corporations don't take those kind of risks, they come in only when it's safe to do so, and then they get to use it as a branding tool, and that has been some of the critiques of the Pride parades today. Um, and in small cities like I think Brighton and other spaces, other smaller towns and cities, you can see communities trying to take back their pride from the corporations. Of course, we don't have a pride in Malaysia, but we came very close to it in from 2008 to 2011. Uh, Two of the people sitting here were co-founders of a festival
You were the
called Sexuality Merdeka. Yeah,
Ooh.
we did it at a time when Malaysia started going to the streets, when Malaysians started showing that we have a voice and we were citizens. We have dreams, yeah, for the country, and not just dreams for ourselves, but for each other. You know, that we wanted to be a part of the democratic discourse, lah. Yeah, and so from 2008 to 2011, we held small. It was a small event, lah. In the first year, I think we had about 300 to 400 people. In the second year, we doubled that. The third year, we doubled that. And then the fourth year, we got banned. So it was a good progression to things in Malaysia. So yeah, that's where we are. With a bit of very brief history of pride around the world and in Malaysia. But that doesn't mean, of course, that our sense of pride disappeared, right? It has evolved in other ways. And maybe I'll pass it on to Dia to share a bit more, on the ways that that pride has manifested in Malaysia as well.
Mhm. Yeah, no, thanks, Pang. First of all, yeah, it's nice to learn more about history, also like specifically within the history of Malaysia Pride. 2008, 2011, huh? I was like
A baby?
12, 13. Not baby lagi lah. Preteen.
Okay.
I think that's really great to reflect on because like especially sekarang, this current context that we're in, pride is something that for me is ever more important, kan? Especially considering where we are, right? So I think it's really important that we really think about what pride means for us, right? For me, it's really about resistance, right? It's really about refusing to hide away, especially consider what we talked about this whole podcast with everything that's going on, all this criminality, right? So it's so important that we try not to hide away and be less visible to me, kan? Because upon certain reflection, at least in recent years, or maybe just even last year about how Pride went, kan? It was, I think, Tilaga, you can share about like the specific data on how, the kind of police or like, what's the word I'm looking for?
Disruption.
Yeah, this disruption to pride events, kan, pride related events. But we felt that as well, kan. We saw that people wanted to organize. There's still a very strong desire to organize, to do something relating to pride, but people are trying to work their way around it, kan. Which to me is, I don't know if that's the way to go about it, lah, kan. I understand that we have to be careful in our messaging and that sort of thing, but I don't know whether that's what pride is about. I don't know whether we want to it's not sacrifice or like like that kind of opportunity cost between being out there and like creating that space, kan?
So and actually, I what you're saying actually has been something on my mind, and it's really moved me, right? So I want to acknowledge the desire of a lot of queer people when they see what they think is pride, right? This big celebration of being queer, and it worries them and think, oh my God, it's going to make us look bad to the straight community. We should behave ourselves. We should act straight, and all that. I want to acknowledge. I know where that's coming from, right? I mean, the pressures have been so strong that this is how we think about ourselves now, and right, we need to be acceptable. We need to be normal.
days.
Yeah, and we need, in order for us to earn the privilege and the right to be left alone. Okay, I mean, this is exactly why you also hear queer people say, I don't want to have labels. I don't want to focus on my identity. I want to be respected for my work and the work I do. Right? Or I want to be seen as human first. Do you know how desperate you have to be begging to be seen as human first? How low we have to go that the only thing we have is to say, hey, I'm human too, please remember. This is how pathetic we have become, right? And how sad it is, right? I want to acknowledge the only reason I'm just offering that possibly the reason, the reason we are begging people to see us for our work and the value we bring to society is because there is no space for us to be who we are. That we cannot talk about our identity. We don't go to racial minority or indigenous groups and say, hey, be proud of being human, or be proud of your work, right? Don't talk about your identity. No, only queer people do that to ourselves, right? So I want to acknowledge that this is a signal that we are navigating. We are navigating because the social pressures are telling us to. And so we can be a bit kinder to each other and to ourselves, and to say, hey, yes, this label doesn't work for me because it makes me feel unsafe, and I want to be seen for my work. But I understand why some people want to be authentic, want to be who they are, and why being queer or being gay, being lesbian, being trans, being non-binary are important as physical, visible markers for some people, right? I think the community can try to be empathic to each other to see that. But you're right. We find these ways of navigating, right? And then we use it to police each other. Don't be so loud. Don't use the word pride. Don't do this and that. But I want to go back to acknowledge that there is a reason why the word pride is important to us, because they are constantly trying to take away our dignity.
You hear that pathetic gaze? As I mentioned, I think it's a binary now.
I'm not
the pathetic
I'm
gaze
not calling the
versus
gays
non-pathetic.
are pathetic. I'm not calling the gays pathetic. I'm saying that they
Kita
made
tutup
us.
kedai lah lepas ni.
Yeah. Sorry. They made us beg. They are making us beg for our humanity. It's so sad. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think to build on Pang, right? Because I think the underlying thing is it's shame, right? It is still reinforcing the idea of shame, and but shame evolving in a different way, right? Like, I have autonomy over this shame, or like I have agency over this, and things like that, right? But essentially, I think we are more and more we are asked to like remove aspects of ourselves, remove parts of our identities, right, in order to assimilate, or in order to be accepted by society. And I think that then I fully agree, like it runs counter to the notion of pride in and of itself, right? That we want to show up as ourselves, we want to like be there and be counted for as who we are, kan? But at the same time, I agree as well, the context in Malaysia ni memang macam susah sikit lah, kan? Because like June is
Sikit lah, yeah.
June is like such a risky month for a lot of people, and especially if like you intersect. Oh, they didn't get that. Like, especially if you intersect that with apa nama dia ni, bulan puasa and things like that, right? So then it amplifies the name. And also, I think what we are seeing here is what we are seeing in Malaysia is not unique to Malaysia, right?
Of course.
We are seeing this everywhere. The pushback against LGBT people is quite intense lah. Like, I think a few years ago, like rainbow products in Target in US were like faced a lot of boycotts and attacks and things like that, right? And just a few days ago, like we were just talking about it earlier, like in Hungary, right, after Viktor Orban's, he no longer is the president, and now there's a new prime minister or president, whatever, and folks are now reorganizing Pride again, and like we are seeing that there are 3 counter protests that are happening, right? And also, in many other places, we see violence against like pride protests, right?
Yes.
So I mean, we are also living in a time where we are not just seeing pushback locally, but we are also seeing pushback globally,
International.
right?
Yeah,
And this is like televised and like on social media, and we are consuming all of these things every day, right? So go ahead, Pang.
No. Just to appreciate your point lah, that the pride actually has been taking place in Muslim countries, like Turkey,
Turkey,
in Lebanon,
yes,
and in Turkey, amazingly, they go ahead every year despite the ban.
betul.
It's banned, yeah, but they go ahead, and then they get arrested, and then they do it again, yeah.
No,
Yeah,
and
Moscow as well. I mean, can you imagine trying to organize anything in Moscow? I mean, but they keep
they
doing
do
it.
it, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think these are some of the things that we can also, appreciate and learn and like look at these resistance, kan? And also like, like when you say Turkey, tadi, like, we had friends from Turkey who were seriously injured, were physically assaulted during some
Right.
of these things,
Oh,
right?
oh.
So so it's definitely very close, right? Some of these threats and violence that we hear. So I just also want to go back to like what both of you have said, right? Like when we are talking about pride, we see definitely this is the month where everybody wants to organize, right? But and I want to also appreciate the little things that people do, right? Because we, of course, as queer people, believe in decentralized organizing, right? We want to organize, but we have like shared ideas, kan? And I think goes and also going back to the point that you said, it's not just about mitigating risk, but it's also how we take on risk, right? And I think this is where like taking on risk cannot happen after event. It's not an afterthought, right? It is part of the process of planning, right? So if folks are like very interested in organizing, looking for support, again, contact us so that then we can like sort of support you, hook you up with lawyers and other safety plans, and tell you how you can challenge certain laws, right? So we can totally do that. Go ahead.
Or how we share the risks together,
Yep.
right? If we do it together, we do it as a community, we watch out for each other. Somebody takes on
Yeah.
some risk, somebody takes on another risk, right? We face this thing together.
Yeah.
Because I sense the desire to want to use the name pride, the word
Yes.
pride somewhere. And I understand why. I know it may feel dumb in this time to want to do this and push it, but I also understand the desire to want to use it.
Yeah.
So if you want to use it, the thing we're trying to say is think about it, think about the consequences, and then prepare for them. We're not saying don't use it. We are saying, let's work together, to do this because it is necessary to your sense of belonging in this country. In a country that has constantly told you that you don't belong, you are making spaces for each other. So it's important that you keep those spaces sustainable. Yeah.
Okay. Sustainability. Are we moving on? Okay.
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 Do you want to say something? Go ahead. Go
Because
ahead.
no, there was a really great point that we were talking about right before we started recording, which was about alternative forms of organizing pride, right? I think that was a really good point that you talked about, Ken, like how the Women's March has become sort of like a de facto thing where queer organizers, come together and organize, and like other forms of protest as well, where a lot of queer people show up, which also becomes a sort of, again,
Yeah.
de facto
Yeah.
pride thing, Ken?
Yeah, I mean, for us, I think that's the point that we're making earlier. Like,
Yeah.
for queer people, I think the way that we embody pride is important,
Yes.
right? Like, pride does not just come during this 1 month, right? But
100%.
pride is every time we show up to something, every
Yes.
time we do something, right?
Yes.
So, like, every time I go to like a Mandiri organized protest, I'm like, yes, this is all my club dancing has trained me for. I'm gonna
Yeah.
dance on the street, right?
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
so yeah, go ahead. Bob.
No, and actually that's a great point, right? Because queer people are also showing up for other people's prides and other people's parades,
Yes.
and rallies. And the fact is that the queer pride marches of Christopher Street in New York did not also just materialize out of nowhere, right? It was built on rallies
Yep.
of
Yeah.
labor unions
Yeah.
and the labor right movement, women's suffragette movement,
Yeah.
it learned from those movements as well, right? And then and people then learn from the queer movement. We see today, right, how queer people are supporting movements for Palestinians,
Yeah,
right? For
yeah.
Palestine's rights. Queer people show up for workers' rights,
Yeah.
for women's rights, for many things. Because bodies on the street, our bodies count, our presence count, and we want to show up for other marginalized people in this country as well.
Yeah.
Because we share the pride also
Yeah.
in being Malaysians, in being who we are.
Yeah, and also I think as queer people, not everybody, I don't want to generalize, but like, I think there's a shared understanding of oppression, right? Like
Mhm.
we experience it, we understand it, and we see the oppression when it happens. So I think that sort of solidarity
Yeah.
is important, right? And it's also it's not a tit for tat sort of solidarity, right? Which
Yeah,
I
yeah,
hate.
Mhm.
Like it's solidarity genuinely because we understand oppression,
Yeah.
we understand how it works,
Yeah.
and we understand the impact of it.
Yeah. Okay, so because we're talking about pride, let's talk about the happier things about pride, right? Sorry. No, we're all happy here, right? We're all happy.
We are gay
some some
here.
days
Okay.
some
We are
days happier than
gay.
others. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because a big part of pride is joy. And as we know, joy in itself is a form of resistance, especially in settings where we are. Okay? So we're gonna do a very fun thing. So because we've talked about the history of pride, what it means for folks, but let's talk about this other side of pride, which is the dancey, party songs, anthems, and music that
This is
keeps the
why we
movement
need
going.
video again. When we
Yeah,
need the dancing,
I know.
dancing.
Like, I know you use the people listening. You can't see, but I am dancing right now. Yeah. Okay. So when we talk about pride, there's this whole intersection between like pop culture and how we queer people engage with media and the music and the arts, right? Also talking about like fandom culture, like that's something that queer people do a lot. We attach parasocial relationships with our mothers, like Lady Gaga or Beyonce, that sort of thing. Kan? So before we talk about our playlist that you can see in the comments or wherever. Yeah, plug.
You're doing great.
Sorry, I did want to ask, just generally first for Tilaga and Pang, what do you think pop culture within the Pride movement means to us, and like how that affects the queer movement in general, music and arts and that sort of thing.
Okay, I mean,
Main
just
points.
very quickly for me, I
Yeah.
think music definitely play a very big
Yeah.
role, right? I think one of the first time I actually encountered this very powerfully was Pet Shop Boys. It's a Sin, right?
Okay.
It was one of the first time a very gay band talk about how everything they do it's a
Yeah.
sin. And by calling it that and then turning it around and saying, you know what, it's a sin anyway, right? So yeah, what am I going to do about it, right? And and then that goes all. I mean, then there's also Bronski's beat "Small Town Boy," which with a very powerful video of a guy who had to run away from his family, right, for being gay. But powerfully ended with his best friends joining him on the train ride as he runs away from home. Therefore, thereby showing chosen family.
Yeah.
Bronski beat "Small Town Boy." Please check out the video. Every time I watch it, I cry. Okay. And even before that, you have Tom Robinson's "I'm Glad to Be Gay," right? And the song is actually a very ironic song because it talks about, look at how the police are beating us up. Aren't you glad to be gay? And it's a great song. But I want to bring you back to Malaysia as well, right? I mean, in Malaysia, we have Shdiam, right? And Shdiam has actually kind of brought the community together with a lot of very fun songs. But actually, my favorite song of theirs is not on Spotify, which they have to do something about it. Julie, don't listen to them. Yeah, why is that not on Spotify? Please do something about that. That is actually to me the Malaysian protest song, right? Because the video was very queer, and essentially it says, Julie, don't listen to them. Then of course
Defy,
we got
Julie,
this
defy.
Lonely Lesbian and other songs. But I want to point out one song, one very
Sure.
quintessential Malaysian song, Joget Menyanyi by Toki. Right? A lot of people don't know we have a very famous Joget song. Okay. And talking about dancing, it's called Joget Menyanyi.
Yeah.
And this song talks about how the kampung ini got tangga lah, got pohon lah, got angin lah, got kilat guru berdentum lah. And
Setting
then,
the scene.
yeah, and then this verse, jalan pesisiran pantai, ramai gadis berpegangan tangan. Si pemudanya pula jatuh cinta sesama. Mari menyanyi, mari menyanyi. Okay, this is radical lah, that we have a song released on Malaysian radio that everybody then asks, wait, what? Is this a gay song? Yeah. And this to me is essentially a pride song.
You
Yeah.
claim it lah.
Yeah.
Just claim it, je.
Of course, Ning by Zura herself
Mm.
did dedicate a song to us. She did a Malay version of Over the Rainbow called Pelangi Untukmu. Yeah. So yeah, those are some of my references.
No, that's really great, Pang. That kind of goes into the other question I wanted to ask you, which is what we wanted to do, which is create this, Pride playlist, right? So you've included some of the songs that you wanted to include. Tilaga, do you have some recommendations as well for us?
Yeah, I do. So Pang and I talked about this, and like we were trying to keep things diverse, right? I grew up in an MTV generation, right? So all my radicalization was because of MTV lah. Watching Madonna and
Okay.
like saying that the most radical thing for me about Madonna was the fact that she didn't have a last name. Like I was like, what? This bitch does not have a
Yeah.
last name?
Yeah.
Like
She's
so,
iconic.
yeah, so
Yeah.
then I thought that was like really major, right? And definitely I'm extremely westernized lah. So the songs that, so I've had like in terms of pop culture, I've gone through like different macam apa nama dia ni, different genres and things, right? So my recommendation when we were talking about this, we wanted to like recommend a punk song. So when
Okay.
I was growing up, I was also one of those people who like, you listen to one punk song, you've listened to all the punk songs, right?
Oh, I see.
I know. I'm just a terrible person.
I see.
Like, but some of my punk friends like shared this band, Limp Wrist. I love hardcore boys.
Impressed? Oh,
Limp Wrist, like their whole album is like fucking gay.
yeah.
So yeah, so that is a song that we wanna, and also because our audience now are like 60% gay men. So then I was like, yes.
I'm so sorry. Gay men don't listen to punk.
I know,
Yeah,
but I
I'm so
want to
sorry.
introduce.
Yeah.
No, but the gay queer punks are the maybe more oppressed, kan? So you wanna like
Yeah.
bagi dia semangat sikit.
Betul?
And then also I wanna like maybe recommend Ani DiFranco. Ani
Okay.
DiFranco was like maybe one of the first like bisexual. Of course there were like other people, but like
Okay.
really me getting into like,
No.
oh wow, look at Ani DiFranco and like all of that. And more contemporary stuff, I think there's this Caribbean artist, Amaria Bibi, and also Green Tea Ping.
Okay.
Wanna like definitely do that for all the name. And it wouldn't be right if I don't recommend Bikini Kill, La Tigra, and all of that lah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, just to acknowledge, one of the first prominent queer punk band is Pansy Division.
Okay.
Yeah,
Pansy
Division.
Division.
Please look for them. And then recently there's also I forgot the name of this punk band, but they came out with a song Queer as in Fuck You.
Oh yes.
Oh.
I have the T-shirt.
Oh, is that where it comes from? It comes from that song. Queer as in
no,
fuck
no.
you. Oh no.
Queer as in fuck you dah lama lah.
Oh,
Yeah,
lemon.
yeah.
Okay, I thought it came
As
from
in,
there.
the phrase is what?
Not queer as in happy.
Queer as in
Yeah,
fuck
you.
not queer as in happy, but queer as in fuck you.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I love that.
Yeah, so these are some that we
Yeah.
will include in our playlist that
Amazing.
you can check out.
Yeah.
What's yours?
Yeah, I will say, this is maybe where the generational gap kind of
Yeah,
comes
yeah.
in. I did not know anybody that they would recommend.
I know. Who the
Why?
fuck are
Don't
these
look Pet Shop
people?
Boys.
I'm really sorry. I'm really
Who's
sorry.
green tea
Yeah.
thing
Hey,
ni?
Green Tea Pang is quite contemporary lah.
I'm sorry.
Not
I'm sorry. But I think I will maybe arrogance or ignorance. Sorry, I don't know. But like I think for me also, I grew up on a different kind of media, right? I'm the K-pop gay.
Okay.
Yeah. So
BTS.
no.
Okay.
Hey,
No,
but
sorry.
But to be fair, BTS actually has songs addressing
That's why.
stuff
Yeah.
like stigma. And things like that.
No, of course, yeah. So, but you want to speak to maybe the more K-pop listeners, like,
Yeah.
the
Speak
young
to
ones.
them. Speak to your audience.
No, because I'm coming just from like the the party scene, or like I go to the gay clubs, to just like fucking dance it out, right?
Yeah.
You know, so like whether or not it has actual pride themes, I don't know, but like all the gays will know the choreography to the song. You know, that's where I'm coming from. That's why I feel like they should be included in the playlist, right?
Right.
So I'll maybe just talk about the generations of K-pop, like second generation, girls' generation. Where my GG stands here. I don't know. Yeah, okay. But like, you know, some really great bangers that people would definitely know.
Yeah.
The choreography too is like G. I'm dancing again. You folks can see.
No, but
You know,
girl
G.
generation is very queer.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right?
They're very
Yeah,
clear.
yeah. I mean, they influenced like 2010s, 11's fashion for so many people. Exactly, kan? Those
that
bright
song?
colored
I know
pants.
you loved that song when it came out.
Yeah,
Singing
can.
it.
So that definitely has to be included in a playlist from the second generation. Third generation, I think, you know, Blackpink does take the
Okay.
the role there, the prize there with, I think, Bumbaya. That's played in every gay club that I've been to, right? Regardless of what month it is, Bumbaya is always in the DJ's rotation. Okay, I would know. I know the full choreography to that song. So just saying.
You-
Like I said, I'm really a K-pop gay. I really invested in my time in learning the
love this for
choreographies.
you.
Yeah.
Now we know what kind of offshoot to do with you with the sini, right?
Yeah.
Sembang song sambil menari.
Right. But another one I really want to get you folks on is a more Japanese girl group. Well, not girl group in general. They're called XG, and they have
Yes.
one
Oh my god.
trans mask non-binary
Yes,
member.
we know this
Yeah.
person who came out.
Yeah, I went to their concert in 2024. I love them. You know, their music is great. And the fact that K-pop and like this East Asian pop has kind of allowed space for this,
Yeah.
you know, these folks is really great. There's also another one called X Love. They're a smaller group for people, and their concept is genderless. Yeah, so they all sort of identify somewhere on the gender non-conforming spectrum, and they recently I'm plugging their music, but they recently came out with a new album which takes a lot of elements from Vogue and that sort of thing, right? In their choreography and the sound. So
Hey,
that's where I'm
I
coming
mean,
from.
talking about the generational gap,
Yeah.
you know who just came out as non-binary, right? Utada Hikaru. Yeah. Yeah. Utada Hikaru came out as non-binary. I'm like, what? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Again, I don't know
You
who that
will
is.
always be my only one.
I don't know who that is.
You don't even know who
Ignorance.
that is. Okay,
Yeah.
you should
Ignorance.
know. She's mother lah to
Okay.
to
The
a lot of
parasocial relationship.
the song's called First Love, right? Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Pang Tilagan, for sharing your recommendations. If you enjoyed that segment and you want to add your own recommendations to this playlist, that will be possible. We'll be sharing. It will be a collaborative playlist for Pride, which you can add your own must-have Pride songs into as well. So yeah, look forward to that.
I just maybe want to spotlight one or two things. I know, like I said earlier, you know, Pride is the month where a lot of people will, you know, organize and are interested to organize, etc. So if you need support, do get in touch with us. I also want to like highlight some of the groups that are doing some amazing work. And if you are like really looking at organizing fundraisers and things like that, that would really help some of these very, very small organizations, especially organizations and groups working with LGBTIQ refugees like Garaptak, right? So, you know, while the situation for LGBTIQ people with citizenship is dire, it's even worse for like LGBTIQ refugees, right? So again, if you are interested in doing things this Pride, do let us know. We're happy to support you. And if you want to support the groups that are doing some work, we are also happy to connect you with folks as well, right?
Excellent.
Okay, is there anything else that folks would like to add? Otherwise, we are done for today. Yeah?
Yeah, no, happy Pride, everyone. Let's dance together sometime. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Simbang Song Song Party is coming to you soon. Okay. Bye, everybody.